Why am I black? I don't know what's going on. You know what? I don't care. I see you. That's all that matters. All right. You ready?
Yeah, man.
All right. Here we go. All right. Hold on. No. Do not disturb. Okay. I don't want anybody calling in. Okay. Peepees, I just care about seeing you. All right. Hold on. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Little theme music to start.
There we go.
JD Talkin Sports. We are live with Dan Fournier. Dan, I got to be honest with you. You're live here, and your Canadian hockey team is losing to Finland 2-1.
Yeah, it's on the screen here, and a little bit nervous, but the boys always have a way of coming back, so I'm not too worried yet. Lots of time.
Okay, that's all I care about. Now, question for you. I met you on was that your Facebook page about the USFL, or were you just posting on that page?
I was just posting on that.
So this is how we met. So I see Dan posting these USFL helmets, which Dan, you actually made, right? You made these helmets behind
that's
you.
That's correct. Yep, I take expired high school varsity helmets and I strip them all down, clean them all up, and then I have a graphics guy that gets me the logos and paint them, put the logos up, and away we go.
So that's an Oakland Invaders over your right shoulder. Is that? Am I correct?
That's correct. Yep. And
the Boston the Boston Breakers.
You got it.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, I can pretty much make all of them. There's like the one I'm having trouble getting logos for would be the San Antonio Gunslingers. But besides that, all the other teams, I either have them made or I can get them made.
How come you can't get the Gunslingers?
It's just a tough one. I've tracked down. So a lot of the logos that I get are from old logo manufacturers that actually supplied the logos to the clubs that still happen to have boxes of inventory that they never got rid of. And now they've found a guy that's getting them. But the Gunslingers is one that I've not been able to come across yet. It's the only one. Every other helmet I've made at least 2 or 3 of.
Wow. Now you just keep them for yourself, or do you give them to?
Well,
is it just your own?
I made it when I first started. I had an ex-Hamilton Tiger Cat player approach me and ask me if I could make him a Cat helmet because from his playing days, the Cats now wear black helmets. He played in the 80s when they wore the old yellow helmet, and he asked if I could make him a one-up. I made him one up, and the executive director of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame happened to know him. And when I gave him the helmet, he said to me, "Where the hell did you get this thing? This thing looks fantastic." And he got the executive director of the CFL Hall of Fame came to me and said, "Listen, we're moving the Hall of Fame to the new Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton once it's built. We want to make an American display of the American teams that played in the CFL. But we don't have any helmets. We've got jerseys and programs and T-shirts, but we have no helmets." So I did some research, and then I made up the 6 or 7 American team helmets for this Hall of Fame, and now they're on display in the American section of the CFL Hall of Fame. And then from there, it's just word of mouth, and people started calling me, "Hey, can you do this helmet? Can you do that helmet?" And it just grew from there.
So you've made it into now. Do you do it out of the love of but you're paying? People are paying you to make these helmets.
Yeah, right? I don't I basically I sell them for about $100 a helmet plus shipping. So I've shipped them to Oregon, I've shipped them to Hawaii, I've shipped them to British Columbia, to the Maritimes. I've pretty much shipped them everywhere. But I don't it's a side thing I do. I like doing it. And there's a lot of fans out there, and the more obscure the team, the more demand there is. The USFL teams, I made one Jim Kelly from the Buffalo Bills. So I originally from St. Catharines, Ontario, which is 40 minutes from Buffalo. So we'd go to Bills games and Buffalo Sabre hockey games. And I was working in one of the tourist locations in Niagara, and he happened to come back. He happened to come in, and he made a joke because he saw one of my helmets on display, and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I got all my helmets, but I don't have a Houston Gamblers." And I said, well, I can make you one. Got in touch with him, shipped one to him because he lives over in Orchard Park, very close to Highmark Stadium. And then he started talking to other former players. And then I started getting inundated from former USFL players that were like, hey, I played for the 83 Denver Gold. I'd love to get a helmet. And that's kind of how it morphed with the USFL stuff. Plus, I love the league. I mean,
obviously you love the. How many helmets do you think you've made all told for with everything?
A little over 300 all total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the average time to make a helmet from start to finish? Is it hours? Is it?
Yeah, it's usually about 3 to 4 hours because when I get them, they're pretty roughed up. They've got like scratches and cracks in them. So I fix all that up and paint them. And then it just takes time to cure them and everything, wash all the inside, paint the inside. And then, it's about 3 to 4 hours a helmet.
Okay, so I got started. You live in Waterloo, Ontario, which is an hour west of Toronto. Did you grow up in Ontario? Is this where you grew up?
Yeah. I was born and raised in St. Catharines, which is 10 minutes from Niagara Falls. So very good proximity to the U.S. So like the Bills, the Detroit Lions, like very, very, very close to the States. So we saw a lot of sports from down here. Waterloo, actually, what Waterloo is known for is the BlackBerry, Research in Motion. It was the company was in Waterloo, Ontario. That's where BlackBerry was originally. Yeah,
I had a BlackBerry. I love my BlackBerry.
Yeah, it's all the head office. The Research in Motion still has a BlackBerry office here in Waterloo.
So we're both you're 2 years older than me. We're both 67. I'm born 69. How did it? You grew up, did you play sports growing up? What did you play growing up?
Yeah, I was a hockey player. I played up to about the junior B level, just before junior A. So it was hockey was primarily the sport that I played. Always loved football as well, watching it on TV. And being where we are, I mean, my uncle had season tickets to the Buffalo Sabres, so we would often go, and that was in the late 70s, like with the French Connection and all that. So I got to see some great hockey in Buffalo. Not very often going to see the Toronto Maple Leafs, just because getting a ticket to the Maple Leafs is like virtually impossible. And I'm a Montreal Canadian fan, so if I'd go in the Leaf building, I'd probably catch on fire.
I catch on fire. She said, so wait, so you're not a Toronto, even though you're the proximity. Was it family that got you into the Canadians? How did you become a Canadian fan?
Yeah. So my dad's uncle was worked at the old Montreal Forum where the Montreal Canadiens used to play their home games. And he worked for the Canadians for about 30 some odd years. And so in the end of the season, every year, once in a while, we'd get like a hockey stick or he'd send us something. And for years, my dad and I, once a year, we'd go to Montreal and watch a Montreal Canadiens game. And one of the coolest stories I've got with Montreal, my dad passed away in 1996. And when they were moving to the Bell Center or the Molson Center now, that was about 6 or 7 years after he passed. The Montreal Canadiens were selling off the seats from the old Forum. And
wow!
I had the ticket from the last game that my dad and I went to, and I called them up and I said, "Hey, listen, I'd love to buy some seats, but can I buy specific seats?" And they said, "If they're available, sure." So I gave them the section, the row, and the seat number, and they go, "Yep, we have them." So I bought them. So I have the 2 seats from the Montreal Forum from the very last game that my dad and I went to in person.
Oh wow! And sorry for your loss. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So where are those seats?
I have them in my basement. They're just in. Yeah. So they're in the basement, all secured. Those are probably my out of all the stuff that I have, those are my 2 prized possessions.
I would think so. You just blew my mind a little bit. The only CF and I do sports trivia, so you gave me a sports trivia question. The only non-Canadian team to win the Grey Cup was the
Baltimore Stallions.
Yes,
1995. Yeah,
but there were more. That you said there were 6 American teams that played in the CFL.
Yeah, So from 1993 to 1995, the CFL really experimented with U.S. expansion. So they had the Memphis Mad Dogs, they had the Las Vegas Posse, there was the Shreveport Pirates, the Baltimore Stallions, they had the Birmingham Barracudas, the San Antonio Texans, and the Sacramento Gold Miners. Those were all
Wow.
teams they played either 2 years or only 1 year in the mid 90s in the CFL. And the Stallions,
Right.
that's one thing in Canada we kind of always chuckle, like we brought football back to Baltimore because Baltimore had moved to Indianapolis. It was vacant.
Right.
The Stallions went and were selling out. Like they had great attendance. They were very, very successful. But then the NFL announced they were going to expand with the Baltimore Ravens, and that kind of then Baltimore Stallions ended up moving back to Canada, and they went to Montreal because Montreal's team had folded, and they moved back to Montreal and they renamed themselves the Alouettes again.
Now, I read something interesting that the Stallions had their own records, and then the Alouettes became, which the NFL, they just merged them together, which I think's, no offense, for bullshit. Where I like that the Alouettes were their own entity and the Stallions. And I looked it up and I said, wait a minute, Mike Pringle. I remember Mike Pringle playing in those days.
He was, and Tracy Ham was Tracy Ham was the quarterback. Yeah, they were unbelievably good. They were a really, really good team. And the challenge they had with the US teams was the Canadian Football League, but the field dimensions was impossible for the US teams to configure the field for CFL standards. So that was kind of a challenge, and then the rules, right? The rules are subtly different between the CFL and the NFL. So that was kind of the 3 downs versus 4 downs. Was a little bit the American audience had a little bit of a challenge, kind of grasping with that. But Baltimore, I mean, they were amazing. They played 2 seasons and they won the Grey Cup in '95.
And that's another thing. I read somewhere that they want to go to a 4 down. The CFL wants to change some rules, and the people like I guess, like you, and me, I like the 3 downs. I like that the way they play the game.
Yeah, they are going to be implementing some rule changes this year. They're not going to get away from 3 down football, though. That was never considered. They won't go away from 3 down. They are moving the goalposts. We have this crazy rule called a rouge. So
I love the rouge.
Yeah. So if you're on the 20-yard line and your punter can kick and he can punt it through the end zone, you get a point. If you miss a field goal and it goes out of bounds, you get a point. Games have been won with that, and it some people think it's a cheesy rule, but it's been in the CFL is much older than the NFL, and that rule's been in since day one. So they're getting rid of that. They're moving the goalposts. They're doing a couple of. They're going to get rid of, we have a center. So our field goes goal line to the 50. Then there's a 10-yard center, and then it's 50 to the goal line. So our playing field is actually 10 yards longer than an NFL field. And they're going to, I think they were talking about reducing the end zones from 20 yards to 15 yards. So I don't know if that's going to happen,
but. Like you said, I feel like the rouge is the best thing in the world because it's kind of like this. Hey, I missed the field goal, but we got a point out of this. You have to. There's strategy, and I like strategy. Wow.
Yeah. When I coach football here in Canada, and we often will go down to the States to coaching clinics. And every American coach that I talk to, when we start talking about the way the clock works in Canada, the yard off the ball and the motion, they love it. They just don't change those rules though.
Right. I do. Right. So there is, right. So the ball, the clock stops after every single play, basically.
Well, the most important thing is 3 minutes at the end of each half, the clock stopped on every motion, and the clock doesn't start until everybody gets set and the referee puts the ball down. So contrary to what happens in the NFL, if you have no timeouts and you're inside the 2-minute warning, you basically, the game's over. You kneel it out. The team would just kneel it out. You can't stop the clock. In the CFL, under 3 minutes, you could get 2 possessions out of that because it's 3 downs and the clock stopped. So you can't. The strategy of the game is a lot more dramatic at the end. Based on if you're behind and you need to score, you can get the ball back. You just got to stop them on 2 downs. Then they got to punt.
Now, and how long you been coaching football? So wait, I mean, there's a lot of things I haven't even got to yet. But how long you been coaching football? How do you get into that?
I started coaching my son tried every single sport and it didn't stick until he played football. So he started playing football in 2005. So I started coaching him there, and then I just kept going. And now my son's 30 years old. He's well aged out, but I always enjoyed doing it. Now I've moved over to flag football because now flag is going to be an Olympic sport. Our national and provincial governing bodies have really moved the focus to flag because the high level competition there. So I'm now coaching flag football.
Is that the sweatshirt you have on? It's a flag football.
This is so I was the general manager of our under 16 provincial team that went to the Canadian National Championships in 2004 in Winnipeg.
How'd you do?
We finished 5th out of 9 teams. Yeah, it wasn't as good as we thought, but we're in the top.
And you'll know this thing. I remember when Warren Moon went over because the NFL wouldn't give him a shot at quarterback, and he wouldn't leave him to fight the Edmonton Eskimos to
5
was it the Eskimos back then? It was 5 Grey Cups in a row.
And they won 5 Grey Cups in a row with Warren Moon, and then actually Hugh Campbell, who was the head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos, ended up going to Houston and then brought Warren with him, and then Hugh Campbell ended up going with the LA Express in the USFL.
Oh, with Steve Young?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so you said, you like to talk a Canadian angle on the USFL. You said you have stories. What was the John Bassett story you were going to tell me about with our president?
So John Bassett is a Canadian legend here. So John Bassett was his big claim to fame. He was in the TV. He's basically Canada's version of Ted Turner. So back in the 70s, he created a CFTO, which is a national television network in Toronto. And then he helped create the CTV network, which is a national broadcaster, kind of like ABC, NBC, CBS, one of those. But he was huge in sports. He actually was the owner of the Toronto Northmen in the old World Football League in 1974. The team unfortunately never played because our government got involved because to protect the CFL, they didn't want an American league team in Canada for football. So he moved them to Memphis and became the Memphis Southmen. The World League only lasted 2 seasons, technically a year and a half. And then he moved over to the World Hockey Association, where he bought the old Ottawa Nationals, and they became the Toronto Toros. Played a couple of seasons in Toronto. Then he moved the team to Birmingham, Alabama, and they were the Birmingham Bulls. But then when the World Hockey Association merged in with the NHL, he was one of the 2 teams that they didn't want in, so they paid him to kind of go away. It was himself and the Cincinnati Stingers. They were the 6 teams. Those 2 teams weren't taken in. The other 4 were. And then he moved on to the USFL, and he became the owner of the Tampa Bay Bandits. And if you read Jeff Pearlman's book, League for a Buck, he actually has the actual letter printed, and it's on Tampa Bay Bandits letterhead. And it basically, it's a letter directly to Donald Trump, and it just says, on a number of occasions over the past meetings, I have listened with astonishment at your personal abuse of the commissioner and various other member partners. If they did not happen to espouse one of your causes or agree with your arguments, it is obvious from the record that you are a talented and successful young man. It is also a fact that I regard you as a friend and an owner who has made contributions to the leagues in general and been a savior to the New York, New Jersey Generals in particular. While others may be able to let your insensitive and denigrating comments pass, I no longer will. You are bigger, younger, and stronger than I am, which means I'll have no regrets whatsoever punching you right in the mouth the next time an instance occurs where you personally scorn me or anyone else who does not happen to salute and dance to your tune. I really hope you don't know that you're doing it, but if you are, not only damaging yourself with your associates, but allegedly or alienating them as well. Think before you shoot, and when you do fire, stick to the message without killing the messenger. Kindness, personal regards, John F. Bassett.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's
Yeah. So,
fantastic.
I mean, clearly things haven't really changed. But it was awesome to see John stick up to him. And had John not passed away, I'm convinced that the USFL would have continued in the spring and would have lasted longer than it did. John had developed brain cancer in
Right.
1984, and by 1985 he was very ill, and that's when President Trump was able to kind of inflict his will with the other owners, and kind of get them onto the thing about going to fall football, which was a complete
It
ruse. Because the other story is in 1985 when Donald Trump had a meeting with Pete Rozelle, and Pete Rozelle was under the impression that they were going to talk about how they were going to like end this lawsuit and kind of just cohabitate. But Donald Trump was basically used the meeting to try to get the New Jersey Generals into the NFL. And there's an audio recording of it where Pete Rozelle tells Donald Trump that as long as I'm alive or my heirs are involved in the NFL, you will never be an owner of an NFL team. Because it goes back to 1981. Donald Trump had tried to buy the Baltimore Colts, and that didn't go through. And he had tried a year later to go after the Buffalo Bills, and it didn't go through either. So he had tried really hard, and his way was he thought he'd get into the USFL and then strong arm a merger with the NFL. But clearly that didn't work.
Thank God. Thank God. I mean, I know I mean, everything he touches turns to shit. That's the thing about him. Everything, And listen.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great letter right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that was perfect. Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. Yes, I remember him passing, and you're exactly correct, because I remember that first year with the Panthers, that championship game against who they beat, the Philly Stars, was a hell.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That Panthers team with Carter, Anthony Carter, and Abear. I mean, there was some really, really good talent in that league.
Yeah, they were insane, and too bad for the Michigan Panthers, because they were actually getting great attendance out of the Silverdome, the Pontiac Silverdome, and what ended up happening with them, from what I understand, was once they started seeing the success, the Lions kind of took a little bit of a front to it and kind of made the lease agreement a little bit challenging for them, because in 1985 the Panthers ended up merging with the Oakland Invaders.
Right. And you had a story too. Was it the Blitz and the Wranglers?
Yeah, that was I when I first read that in the book, I was like, "There's no way this can be true." But then I researched it some more, and it was dead on. And one of the guys one of the people that I also know is Mike McCarthy, who was the director of player personnel for the Chicago Blitz. And he outright said, "This is absolutely true. This worked. This word for word was exactly how it happened." So the guy who owned the Chicago Blitz was Dr. Ted Dietrich, and he lived in Arizona. And it got to the point where he didn't like making that flight from Arizona to Chicago, 8-9 times a season. So he ended up getting together with James Hoffman, and they basically switched franchises. So Dietrich took over the Arizona Wranglers, and Hoffman took over the Chicago Blitz. But also part of the deal, back in the 84 season or 83-84 season, Chicago was a good team. They were stacked pretty good. They had George Allen running the show, and they were getting good attendance. And Dietrich knew that. The Wranglers weren't as good. So part of the deal was all the players were going to switch franchises as well. So all the Chicago Blitz roster was now going to become Arizona Wranglers, and the Arizona Wranglers were now all going to be part of the Blitz. They didn't tell anybody that. They just did it. They did the deal. The league, authorized the transfer of ownership and everything. And then what ended up happening was the James Hoffman hires Marv Levy, who later went on to Bills fame, but didn't tell Coach Levy that he wasn't getting the previous season's Chicago Blitz roster. So Marv Levy shows up thinking, "Oh my God, I've got a team that I can really move along." They had Greg Landry was their quarterback. They were ready to go. Shows up to training camp, and it's all these old Arizona Wrangler players. And then the following season, the Arizona Wranglers actually went to the championship game against Philadelphia. They lost, but they went from 0 to hero in one season.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Now, and you said you have a lot of stories. Any other stories that pop in your head from the USFL days?
Well, mostly a good San Antonio Wrangler story. They were so badly operated, and their owner was an oil tycoon guy from Texas, and it was so bad in San Antonio that when they were getting checks back in those days, there was no direct deposits or anything like that,
right.
So they would physically get a check. So as soon as the players would get their checks, it was like cannonball run to the bank to make sure who could get there first, because whoever got there first would get their money. If you got there after, there was a good chance there was no money left and the check would bounce. So just crazy stuff like that.
Doug Williams was on that team, I think, if I'm correct.
Doug Williams was with the Oklahoma Outlaws.
Okay, my bad. Yes.
Yeah. And then when he left the USFL, he ended up going to the Redskins, Super Bowl MVP. Tampa Bay had basically washed him out, said he did have a bad knee, but it wasn't like career ending. He went to Oklahoma, put up some crazy numbers, and then went back to the NFL, back with the Washington Redskins, and wins a Super Bowl and is the Super Bowl MVP.
I mean, you had Sam. So my father taught at Montclair State. Sam Mills played at Montclair State. He didn't make the NFL, went to the USFL, became a phenomenal, and became a Hall of Famer. Gary Zimmerman, Reggie White. I mean, there's a lot of names that you could talk about from the USFL days.
Just quarterbacks alone, like Doug Flutie, Steve Young, Jim Kelly, Bobby Hebert, like all these guys went from the USFL and went and had fantastic careers in the NFL.
And Herschel Walker ran for like 2,400 yards in a season in '85. Yeah. I mean, he was phenomenal. They had Brian Sipe. Remember Brian Sipe? That was at the end. But Flutie never got the shot, I felt. I think Flutie, when he went to the CFL, you saw what Flutie could do, where the NFL never gave him that shot. He was a hell of a football player.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and his brother was an unbelievable receiver.
Darren.
And he played for my my Hamilton Tiger Cats. And I mean, Doug Flutie lit it up in the CFL. And I mean, every time you hear him talk, I mean, he always speaks very well of the CFL. And then so does Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann played with the Toronto Argonauts with Leo Cahill back in the early 70s before he went to the NFL. And he often will come to Toronto and do autograph signings. And he'll come to an Argo game usually once a year. They fly him in and bring him in. And he's always very supportive of this CFL.
I loved him. I loved him broadcast. A lot of people found him annoying. But Chris Collinsworth is annoying to me. I'll tell you, I watch. We get the TSN network? Is that we get? I get the CFL games, and my girlfriend's like, "What are you watching?" I go, "I'm telling you, I got to watch some football." And I'll watch the CFL. I'll watch. I really respect the guys. There's a lot of guys who don't make it in the NFL. Go to college, and they have that kind of. You got to have mobility in the CFL. You got to be able to move around.
So especially if you're a lineman. So like Mark Gastineau and Dexter Manley, they all came to the CFL. Super briefly, and especially Gastineau will tell you. So in the CFL, what people don't realize, they don't line up on the line heads up. There's a yard. You have to give up a yard between the offensive lineman and defensive lineman. So a lot of offensive linemen that come out of the United States, they really struggle in Canada because they can't get out of their stance fast enough because the guy gets a yard to come after you. It's not just you're standing and head to head and you're just filling a hole. You got to be able to get out of your stance, especially if you're a guard, and you got to move. And a lot of defensive linemen end up coming to Canada and being offensive linemen because they're not as big, but they have a lot more mobility, which you need on the line. And on defense, you got to be super fast because you got to make up an extra yard. You're not heads up. So that's why if you watch Canadian football, you'll notice that a lot of the linemen are all Canadian because they've played Canadian football and they're adapted to that. One of the guys on TSN, he passed away, Chris Schultz. He played with the Dallas Cowboys in the 80s, then came back to Canada and played with the Toronto Argonauts for 14 seasons. And he talks about that all the time, that offensive linemen in Canada have to be like defensive linemen are in the US, that athletic. You can't just be a 400-pound guy that fills a hole. You'll never make it. It's that 1 yard does make a huge difference on the line.
I never thought about it that way. That's excellent. I love that. I love that. Yeah, you were right, because the extra yard, you got to be able to, because they're not jumping on top of you. You really have to be able to.
And that's what Mark Gastineau's big thing was when he came to Canada. I mean, he was near the end of his career, but when he came to Canada and they kept telling him, you got to back up a yard. He's like, what the hell? I'm never going to make it to the quarterback. They're like, well, that's what it is. You got to give up a yard. It's a yard is a yard. And that's the one thing he always says is, he goes, that 1 yard is like a mile in football. Like it does really make that difference when you're trying to line up on the end and you're trying to get to that quarterback.
Right, because it is that burst, and now you have to even be exactly. Wow, that is interesting when you say it like that. That's awesome. Yeah, wow. Okay. Also, you are fat. So WHA.
Yep.
Also, so we talked a little bit about that. You have now I remember the name Gerry Cheevers, but I don't remember so Cheevers won almost 300 combined games in the WHA and NHL, won 2 cups.
That's correct. But
So what were you going to say? So he played, who did he play for in the WHA?
So he played for the Cleveland Crusaders. That was
great name.
They were a fantastic. They were a very good team. So Gerry Cheevers is from my hometown, St. Catharines, Ontario. Gerry's a legend in my part, and he played for the Boston Bruins, and he played there in the early 70s with Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito when they won the 2 cups. And then in 1972, when the WHA came on, the Boston Bruins, that's why the Boston Bruins basically, when you look back at NHL history and you go, they had all these players and they only won 2 Stanley Cups. They won 1970, or 69, 71. And they could have won many more. But when the WHA came into existence, the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs lost per capita the most players to the World Hockey Association. So Boston lost 7 players in 1 year to the WHA, and they were all starting players. Rick Smith, Bob McKenzie, or John McKenzie, Gerry Cheevers. There was 7 players that all jumped to various WHA teams. Derek Sanderson, all left in the same year, and they all went to the WHA, and that kind of put Boston a little bit behind on talent wise, and they didn't really win any Stanley Cups after that. Up until a few years ago. But so Gerry Cheevers plays 4 years in the WHA. He plays 4 seasons, and then he runs into a big contract dispute with them and ends up coming back to Boston. And a piece of trivia that a lot of people don't remember. So we just celebrated, I think it was 50 years from Daryl Sittler scoring 10 points in a game. And that game was against the Boston Bruins. That was Gerry Cheevers' first game back with the Bruins. And if you watch the highlights, it was Dave Reese that was in net. When they show the play, you see Cheevers is on the bench. And there's a story that he tells that after about the 4th or 5th goal, Don Cherry, who's the coach of the Bruins at the time, kind of looks down at the bench to say, hey, we're going to make a switch and goal. This guy's getting killed. So Cheevers takes the towel, puts it over his head, and kind of hides. And he says, there was no way in hell I was going to go into that game with Sittler doing what he was doing and having them score and be part of that record. So that's why Dave Reese played the whole game and that was basically Dave Reese's last game in the NHL because Gilles Gilbert was injured, came back from injury. Gerry Cheevers came back. So they went with that tandem for the balance of the 70s. But I ran into Gerry Cheevers about 20 years ago, and I had my jersey, and I had made up a Cleveland Crusader jersey, and I got
What
a
jersey was
call.
that? What was that jersey? What was that jersey there?
That, that's the Cleveland Crusaders.
Oh, that's their emblem. Wow.
That's the team he played for, and I got him to sign the jersey right here. And when I showed up, he was at a bar, and I got a phone call from a friend who was working. They're like, Gerry Cheevers is here. You know, if you want to get your jersey signed, come on down. He's here. He's having dinner. He's going to be here for a while. He was in for some charity function. So I go bombing down there, and I'm just thinking, like, I was in my 20s by then. So I didn't, I kind of felt a little awkward, like I'm going to get an autograph from a hockey player. But I had got this jersey made up, and, he's a legend in St. Catharines. So I go over and I'm like, hey, Mr. Cheevers, I hate to bother you, but is there any chance I could get an autograph from you? I made this replica Cleveland Crusader jersey, and I'd really appreciate it if you signed it. Well, he took one look at that jersey, and it was like, holy man. He goes, I have my equipment. I got my jacket. I don't have a Cleveland Crusader jersey. I never kept one of my jerseys. Grab a seat. So I sit down next to him, and he's sitting at a table with about 3 or 4 other guys. And then he starts talking about the Crusaders and talking about like the nutty stuff that would happen in the WHA. And he signs the jersey, and then he says, hey, wait a minute, I don't have one. He goes, I'm going to keep it. And I'm like, well, I'll get you another one if you sign one for me. And he says, if you get me another one, he goes, I'll sign this for you right now. He goes, here's my business manager or whatever it was. Here's their phone number. Call them. And he goes, I want one. And he goes, I want my name on the back. He goes, if you've got a picture, make it just like it was. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I go, I get one made. I call up. They give me this address. I ship it out to them. And then I got back a card that was an action picture of him with Cleveland. And he wrote on the back, he goes, thanks. You're helping me complete my collection. All the best, Gerry Cheevers.
Wow.
So, yeah. And he was so nice and talked about the nutty stuff that happened with the different teams in the WHA. But he makes a very valid point. The WHA was instrumental in changing the culture of professional hockey when it comes to contracts, player pay, and free agency and that kind of stuff. Because back in the 70s, they had the reserve clause in the NHL. You were picked by a team, you belonged to them for life, unless they traded you, and you had no choice. And negotiate a contract, they would write it on a piece of paper, and you either signed it or you didn't play. So the WHA was instrumental in bringing European hockey players to North America, because the WHA had like Swedish players and Finnish players long before the NHL ever did. And the WHA, especially with hockey, has an extremely long, impactful impact on the game.
Now, so you got a little cut off. So Cheevers ended up going back to the Bruins because the Cleveland didn't offer him a contract that he didn't give him a deal.
Well, he was trying to renegotiate the contract, and at the time, Cleveland was having some they ended up folding by the end of the season. So the writing kind of was on the wall. And one thing that Gerry Cheevers he's a very astute business person. He saw the writing on the wall. He had an opportunity to go back to Boston, and back he went.
Do you know how much he was making back then? And what was the top guy? Was Hal the top paid player in the WHA back in the day?
Well, what opened it all up was Bobby Hull signed a $1 million contract when he signed with the Winnipeg Jets. And that contract was actually paid by all the teams in the league. They pulled all their money together to get him. And then, there was a lot of crazy contracts, like the Wayne Gretzky personal service contract he signed with Peter Pocklington when they acquired him from the Indianapolis Racers. It was like $40 million, but it was like personal services contract. That's why Wayne ended up staying with Edmonton, because when they came into the NHL, basically the deal was that all the players on the WHA rosters would all revert back to the teams that had their NHL right. So that's why you saw like the Winnipeg Jets, who won the Avco Trophy in 1979, ended up getting absolutely decimated when they came into the NHL because all of their core players were all scooped up back by their NHL teams, and they had to restock with junior players or free agents that they could just pick up and whatnot. And really only Edmonton, because Glenn Sather was a genius in the draft, because he was able to get Kevin Lowe and start that dynasty up through the draft. Why Edmonton was able to get so successful so quickly. The other three teams struggled like right up until the mid '80s, late '80s.
We're about the same age, so that you were a young kid. We both would have been young. What was the closest WHA team to you growing up?
When I was growing up, the Toronto Toros were the closest.
Okay. Okay.
But then we had a television network in Canada called Global TV. They're still around, but they would televise WHA games. So what we ended up when the Toros moved to Birmingham, we would still get to watch some of the Winnipeg, and we'd see some of the Edmonton games. So that as a kid, I was able to like watch them on TV. And then back in those days, you remember the old in the newspapers, you get the stats sheets with all the score summaries. I was addicted to that. So every day I'd pull up the sheet, there'd be the NHL, the WHA. And then the cool thing, the coolest thing about the football, just to go back to football for a second, for 3 seasons, we had it the best in Canada. We had football 12 months of the year because the NFL would go a week after the Super Bowl, the USFL would start. And then in June, it would be USFL playoffs, CFL would start. And then when you get into the fall, the CFL would go till November. So you'd have CFL and NFL overlapping. So for 3 years, we had football 12 months of the year.
Oh my God, that is so awesome.
It was awesome.
Right. And they didn't. And so I was reading about the WFL. WFL basically, like you said, in a year and a half, they put a team in Hawaii, which that's big balls right there. And just the travel time and Kick, Zonka, and Warfield got like $3.5 million for 1 year. They couldn't sustain it, but they had so many teams. I mean, the USFL. I mean, you saw from year to year, and you're right. If Trump hadn't been involved, everything he does touches, turns to crap. What could have been? That's what you say. What could have been? Hey, congrats, 2-2. Congrats on Canada. So I'm very happy for you.
Oh, excellent. What's the score now? Sorry, I turned it off.
2-2. 2-2.
Oh, there we go.
I think they just scored. I think.
Well, like when the USFL started, their model was brilliant. I mean, they had it set up that they were going to have a salary cap, which was unheard of in the early '80s. And then when they're drafting, they had set up a regional draft as well. So each USFL club would have 4 to 5 colleges in their region that they were able to pick players from. So you could get that name recognition in the area. The crazy thing where everything went off the rails is when some of these owners came in and, thought they had a lot of money and started throwing it around like crazy. And then egos got involved, and then you got to keep up with the Joneses. And then the whole economic thing went by the wayside.
Right. Because that's the thing. Burt Reynolds was involved. Was Burt Reynolds part owner? Was he involved with one of the teams?
Yeah. With Tampa Bay Bandits. Bandit ball.
He still talks about it. If we had stayed in the spring, like you said, we would have survived. But why would he go head to head with the NFL?
The whole thing that's all come out now was he wanted to strong arm the NFL into amalgamating. He had the idea that he was going to be the AFL and the NFL. So the AFL in the early '60s, when they started out, they were smart. The owner, the original owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, Lamar Hunt, was brilliant. He worked out a TV contract with NBC. They got flashy uniforms compared to what the NFL was like. The Kansas City Chiefs wearing red and white. When color TV came out, that was insane. And then the Houston Oilers. So they got that TV contract, and then they made it exciting. They were more pass oriented than the NFL was. And they went into markets where really there wasn't a lot of NFL, the New York there was, but they went into other areas like Kansas City, San Diego, Houston, where the NFL was not. So they built up this over a 7-8 years. Then they expanded. They brought in the Cincinnati Bengals. They brought in the Miami Dolphins. And then by that time, their TV ratings were as good, sometimes, if not better, than the NFL. So that kind of forced the amalgamation. Donald Trump thought the same thing. We're going to sue, basically saying that the NFL is colluding with not letting us get TV contracts. But they had a contract. They had ABC was their TV people in the spring, and then ESPN was starting to talk with them about expanding because ESPN came in 1980, and by 84, 85, they were getting bigger. They needed programming. So between ABC and ESPN, they would have got the TV exposure that they needed. If their owners would have been a little bit more disciplined on the business side, there's no reason why the USFL could not have continued. Going to the fall, you're going to go up against that juggernaut of the NFL. Good luck. It was never going to happen. Clearly, it was just designed to try to force the NFL to bring in some of these teams, i.e., the New Jersey Generals. How that would have happened, he was crazy. They had the Jets and the Giants
and the Giants, right?
New Jersey.
Right. Yeah,
so let's add a third team to New York. Like rocks in your head.
Right.
And that's too bad. And to me, like all the books that I've read, all the articles, and I remember I used to watch the USFL religiously. We got all the games on ABC in Canada, and they were great. They had Keith Jackson, Lynn Swan with the broadcast team, and they did a bang up job of production. And they actually had the pregame, postgame shows that really the NFL back then didn't really do as good. So there was a lot of really cool things that the USFL was doing. It's just, they just weren't disciplined enough on the business end, and they had drawn the names. They had players that wanted to play there. They signed 3 Heisman Trophy winners in a row. They had Herschel Walker. They got Doug Flutie and
Rozier.
Yeah. So they had signed 3 Heisman Trophy winners, like 3 years in a row, that didn't go to the NFL. And that was another one where Herschel Walker, Tex Schramm from Dallas, went to him and said, "Hey, listen, we just drafted you," because he had left the draft. He had left Georgia before his senior year, so he was technically ineligible for the NFL draft. But the USFL, they didn't care. They drafted underage. They didn't care, and they went to him and threw some money at him, and he accepted it. And to Herschel Walker's credit, when Tex Schramm went to him and said, come over to Dallas, and he goes like, "Sorry, I've agreed to play with the New Jersey Generals. I signed a contract. I'm honoring the contract." And it didn't hurt him. He ended up going to Dallas at the end, anyways. But he was fantastic to watch in New Jersey. He ran like crazy.
Oh my God! I still remember him in college. He was such a big guy. He would just go through the line and gone. Yeah, he was. Actually, we never got to see how good he could have been because he was so good in the. I don't ever feel like they used him right. Yeah. I never was on the right team with him. Yeah,
he was like Earl Campbell, but with speed.
Oh, I loved Earl Campbell. I loved Earl Campbell. It's kind of when you talk about it, and what's really sad, Dan, is now they have what's it now, the UFL, and the quality of play is garbage. It's just garbage. It was they all played. Yeah, right. They all played in Birmingham. They're all playing in the same in the same. It was terrible. There was nobody in the stands.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to see this year. Like they've realigned some of the teams. They moved some teams. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it for sure. I had a hard time here in Canada getting the games on. Like last year, I had to watch a couple games on my computer because it wasn't available on TV. But we're going to be able to get some of the games. I've looked at the schedule. There'll be some. Most of the games will be on TV here finally. So I'm definitely going to tune in. I mean, it's just for the sake, watching the Houston Gamblers and Birmingham Stallions, just to see what that's going to look like. But yeah, you're right. The quality. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to align themselves to be kind of a minor league type of situation to the NFL. Because the other thing that a lot of people have to understand is it's migrating to the NFL quicker. But like, for example, in Canada in the CFL, they are limited to the amount of full contact practices they can have now. They basically they've mandated now that they're only allowed, I think, 2 to 3 hours a week where they can go full out contact practices. All the other practices can be like no pads, walkthroughs, team meetings and stuff. But full on contact practices are being limited just for the sheer fact of injuries, all the concussion stuff that they've got now coming out. And I know it's translated to the NFL. The NFL, and that's why sometimes when you watch now the last couple of 3 years, when you watch the first couple of weeks of the NFL season, you're like, what the hell's going on with these guys? Like, what's happening?
Right.
If you go to training camp, they're limited to how much full contact practices they can have. So perhaps if the UFL kind of aligns themselves as a minor league team, you're going to get these guys playing in the spring, and then they'll be able to go from the UFL, go into the training camps of the NFL, and then, be kind of more game ready type of thing, and be able to have some snaps, because that's the only thing with football. Hockey, you have so many more games, you have so many more practices, you can sit on the bench, you can watch, you can learn. With football, unless you're getting in the reps, you're not really, you can watch all the film you want, you can be on the sideline all you want, but unless you're physically doing it, that's why when you watch the NFL and you see the first string quarterback go down, the backup comes in, you're like, what the hell's this guy doing? He has no clue. All he can do is hand the ball off. They get no reps during the week, like none.
Right, none. And that's what I feel like would be great, would be like the UFL for a guy like that. Like there's young guys, there's no development of these quarterbacks. They get in, they have a couple bad games, they have a bad, and they're dumped. Like we have Zach Wilson here. Zach Wilson would do him great to go play somewhere where he played every week. He played every game.
Well, and hopefully that's kind of what they kind of do. Like NFL had that a little bit with the NFL Europe stuff.
I love the NFL Europe. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, like the
Scottish Claymores.
The World League of American Football. That was the predecessor of NFL Europe. That's what ended up being a stepping stone. There was players that went and coaches that went from the World League and moved over to the NFL and CFL because, again, they played in the spring and they were able to get some reps and get some exposure and then, make the transition over. But I think if the UFL does it right, that's kind of what it is. And again, as a fan, when you're tuning in, that's kind of, you got to get your mindset around that to say, this isn't the old USFL days where they're going head to head with the NFL for talent. This is kind of a developmental league, and it's going to get me through until the CFL starts in June.
Right. Now, who are you? You were a Tiger Cats fan in the CFL. Do you watch the CFL religiously too? You watch everything?
I watch the CFL more than I watch the NFL, to be honest. I just find that the CFL game, we like player quality wise, the talent is in the NFL for sure. But we definitely have some unbelievable players that play in Canada. And just the way the rules are in Canada, the wider field, the 3 downs, it's more wide open football. There's a lot more throwing than there is running. And, the 20-yard end zones. I mean, when you're on the 5-yard line, you can run a 15-yard slant into the end zone and make it.
Right.
In the NFL, you get inside the 5, man, there's not a lot of room to run around in that end zone with being 10 yards. The fact that, you can run back a missed field goal. If they miss the field goal, you have a guy in the end zone, you can catch it and run it out. That's kind of I just find that exciting. And the way the timing is. And then motion. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the NFL, you can have one guy in motion, but he has to be parallel to the line of scrimmage. If you watch the CFL, you'll see our slot backs, which are our version of a tight end. They're like 5-6 yards behind the quarterback. They get a running start. They hit the line of scrimmage when the ball is snapped at full speed. They go on an outside linebacker and they do a crack block. That middle linebacker's got to have his head on a swivel. And that guy can be 20 yards up the field before a DB can react and get into position. So there's just a lot more of that action component that the NFL is a great game. I do watch it. I love it. But I do watch more CFL than I watch NFL.
Yeah, there's just too much. I feel like in the NFL, it's just, I feel like I don't know how is it. as a defensive player, how I'm running with someone and I can't put it's not natural to not put your hands on someone or touch. And I just feel like it's all pushed to the offense, and it drives me crazy. Like, people go crazy with the tush push, and people are like, well, if you stopped it, but the CFL, you got 3 downs. You're not going to do a play like that. You're not going to,
Yeah, you got to throw the ball. You got to have a quarterback who can throw, and you have to have receivers that can catch. And I just find it faster. Like, the actual, and then our thing in Canada, we only have 20 seconds time clock between plays. The play clock's only 20 seconds.
So it's like
in the NFL, it's 40. Like, you got to move. Like, you can't just like walk up. Like, NFL game, actual gameplay is about 10 minutes of a full
that's
game.
what it is.
In the CFL, you get a little bit more. You get about 15 to 18 minutes of gameplay.
Well, you know what drives me, Dan? You know what drives me about college football here in America is they have a play. They're always in the shotgun. They look over at the coaching, and I'm like, it's forever. They look over the coaching staff for the play, look back, and I'm like, guys, pick up the pace. Pick up the pace. Come on, pick. So that's the thing too. Yeah, right. Because how is college football over there? I mean, it's not like it is over here.
No, it's not. We do have a very robust college game. We just don't have nowhere near as many colleges as there are in the States. And in Canada, we have universities and we have colleges. So the universities, they're the ones that play the football. In my town right now, so in Waterloo, we have 2 universities. We have the University of Waterloo and we have Wilfrid Laurier. And Wilfrid Laurier is constantly ranked top 3 in the nation. They've won the national championship a number of times. And just up the road, about an hour in London, Ontario, we have the Western Mustangs, and those guys are juggernauts. We have a national championship. Our college football is played in the fall. So they go by the school year, so it'll start in September, and usually the national championship for us for football is usually the week before the Grey Cup is played.
Oh, really? And it's a terrible weather. You got
to.
And you said you had what's the weather like? What's the weather like you right now? Are you snow? I mean, right? Snow, everything.
Same as New York. We got some snow. It's been freezing. It's been raining for the past 4 days. It's about it's about 33, 34 degrees.
That's where we are. Right? That's where it was raining today. Yeah. Okay.
Right. I mean, you're in New York City, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So same weather as you.
Okay. So I thought maybe you got even more snow than we did, but you don't really get as much. You don't get a lot more than we do.
No, we get pretty much the same. We get a little bit more, but it's not crazy. In November, though, we usually get the snow sooner than you guys do. In November, mid-November, it's snowing here. Usually the Grey Cups, and that's the other thing that's cool about the Grey Cup. We only have 2 stadiums in the country that are domed. So our Grey Cup is usually outside,
in the elements.
And it's usually a snowstorm. So that's the other thing we laugh about. Like, in Canada, like, we don't care. Unless the game is in Vancouver, we're playing in probably -20 in a snowstorm. Whereas the NFL, they'll do it in a dome, or they'll do it down south where it's all nice and hot and warm and all nice and comfy, cozy. I mean, the one Grey Cup that Doug Flutie won with the Toronto Argonauts was played in Hamilton, and I was at that game, and I'm not joking you could not see the lines on the field. It was a blizzard the whole game. They had to get tractors out, and the snow was going sideways. I remember they tried to kick a field goal from a 30-yard field goal. The ball went to about the goal line, and you could just see the ball. The wind just took it, and it just drove it all the way to the left, and it was like no good. It was an ugly, ugly game, but that's Canada. That's what we get.
And you loved it, and Dan loved it.
Yep, absolutely.
I saw your daughter. You went to so are you a Blue Jays fan?
Yeah. We so I used to be originally I was a Montreal Expos fan. So I followed the Expos.
Andre Dawson was my favorite player. Andre the Hawk.
We had Warren Cromartie, we had Gary Carter, we had Chris Spires, Larry. Johnson, the pitcher, played for
Randy Johnson,
and Tom Brady was drafted by the Montreal Expos.
He was as a catcher, I think, a catcher.
Yep.
Yeah, and you had what you called oh man, what's it, the Pedro. We talked about Pedro. Pedro.
Pedro Martina.
But
And
I loved.
For one season, we had Pete Rose.
You did have Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, when he was with the Expos, broke. That was I think it was the consecutive hits in a season. One of the records.
44.
One of his hitting records happened when he was playing for the Expos.
And who was the star pitcher? Was it Rogers? Is that I'm thinking of?
Yep, Steve Rogers.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. And then going way back, we had Rusty Staubs.
Yeah. He had Rusty. Yeah.
He played for the Expos. They called him the Grand Orange, the large orange.
Yeah, because of the hair.
Because of his red hair. Yeah.
And I heard they're trying to get a team back. And you had a fan base. I have seen people in the airport, and I'll say something. I go, love the hat. I have a Montreal Expos batting helmet. I still have it.
Yeah. I've got the tricolor hat that they wore all through the 70s and 80s. Well, a couple of years ago, when Tampa, the Rays stadium got destroyed by that hurricane, they wanted to come and play half their home games in Montreal and play half in Tampa or St. Pete's, wherever they're playing at a minor league stadium now until
they're playing Yankees. The Yankees.
Yeah.
Minor league stadium.
Major League Baseball said, nope, not a chance. And Montreal was like, yeah, we'll bring them out. Right now, from the rumors that we're hearing, the Brofman family, which is they had ownership way back with the Expos. One of their family members, from my understanding, they're looking at a location downtown Montreal to put a stadium. That was the problem in Montreal. They played out of Gerry Park until 1976 when the Olympics happened, and they moved to Olympic Stadium, which is probably the biggest, still standing. They still use it, but it's the biggest white elephant ever. It was cavernous. It was not the best ballpark, and it was way, way, way in the east end of the city. Unless you took the metro in, it was a pain in the ass to get out there. But they're looking at doing a downtown stadium very close to where the Bell Center or the Molson Center is where the Montreal Canadiens play. So if they can probably get the stadium, either be a relocation or I don't know if MLB would ever expand again, but it was pretty hard watching the Washington Nationals win the World Series, knowing that that was the Expos.
Oh man, Dan, you're just bringing back great memories. I would love that to happen again. I mean, I would love. Something pops in my head too. I was thinking, oh crap! I was thinking about something else.
Well, the Jays play. They play one home series in Montreal every year at the Olympic Stadium, and all the games are sold out. And now
I would think so.
Vlad Guerrero, who's the big star for the Blue Jays, his dad played for the Expos. So when he goes to Montreal, they absolutely go crazy for Vlad Jr.
Oh yeah, right. That was 94. 94 was one of the best baseball seasons ever.
Yeah,
and that's what I want to. So I met Gary Bettman, and my girlfriend cannot stand him. He's the only putz who had 2 seasons. They didn't play 1 year. I'll never forget after 94, if the Rangers won, the popularity was at its zenith, and they stopped the next season. Where I was just like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?"
I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy, but the big thing that goes around in Canada, the joke is, so since Gary Bettman took over the NHL, which was in 1994, a Canadian team has not won the Stanley Cup.
Nope. Since Montreal 93. Yeah, you're right.
That's right. Yep.
And Toronto hasn't won since 67, which is crazy.
Yeah, well, no love lost there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, so my girlfriend is a Ranger fan. So when she talks about the Islanders, she just goes, yeah, they can. Yeah.
That's one of my bucket list things that before I die and if they would ever move it, I would die to go see a Ranger game at Madison Square Garden.
Just tell me when.
Madison Square Garden right now is the last of the original 6 buildings left. I was lucky enough as a kid. I went to a game at the old Detroit Olympia, and then I went to a game at Joe Louis. I have not been to the new arena, but I have been to Ford Field. I took my son to a game with a Lions game. That whole area of Detroit is absolutely gorgeous now. ball stadium, the football stadium, and the new hockey arena. The Detroit, hats off to them. They did a dynamite job. And the crazy part is just like in Niagara, like where I come from in Buffalo. I mean, we look across the river and it's right there. We cross the bridge. All three stadiums are. We don't even have to go into Detroit anymore. To go to any. Yeah, like so. If you're a Canadian, you go to Windsor, Ontario, and the Windsor Transit. You pay $5. Windsor Transit. You get on a transit bus. They bring you to the game. And then for an hour and a half after the game, you get on the Windsor Transit and they bring you back. And they have it all set up at the border where the bus goes to customs and you go in, you show your ticket, you show your ID, you get back on the bus, gone, back to the stadium. It's the easiest, simplest thing ever to go across.
I have never been to I've never been to Canada, but it's interesting you said that. I want to go. We want to go to Toronto because we want to see the Hall of Fame. I would love to. I've never
The old Hall of Fame used to be at Old Exhibition Stadium, and it was probably the smallest thing ever. And when they moved it to the new building, it used to be an old bank, and actually the vault of the bank is still there. And inside the vault is where they keep the strips of the Stanley Cup. As they take them off, they put them in this vault, so you can see all the different stripes. And it's inside the vault. The way they did it's really, really cool. It's very interactive. But when they moved it over, they started moving all of their inventory over, and they had stuff in there. They had no idea what the hell it was. They hadn't cataloged it properly. So I had a friend that knew some people there, and for one summer, my job was they had goalie masks, the old goalie masks. You know, the back in the 60s, 70s, the players would paint them.
Yes.
So they had goalie masks in boxes. They had no idea who these guys were. So what I did was I would go through all the pictures and take the mask and try to find out who wore this goalie mask. So when they moved over, they gave me 6 lithographs of Tony Esposito, Rogie Vachon, Mike Palmetier, and they were the actual lithos of pictures that were not published in books. So so if you want to see a Hall of Fame, you come see the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's insane. It's so good.
Now, Dan, is it true that Cheevers was the first guy to put stuff on the stitches? They said he was the first guy to do that stuff.
So the first guy to actually paint his mask was Doug Favell. So Doug Favell, again, another guy from St. Catharines. We seem to put out goalies, but Doug Favell was playing for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they were playing in a Halloween game. And the Flyers used to wear, well, they still do. They wear the orange jerseys. So they took his mask and they painted his mask orange. They didn't put a design on it. So he was the first guy to play with a colored mask. But yeah, Gerry Cheevers was the first one, and it was his trainer that started it. And then he just kept adding to it. And then by the time he retired, his mask was pretty much full of stitches.
And you see the masks they wear now. Back in the day, they were nothing. They had nothing. These goalies were like, holy crap.
Well, I saw an interview with John Garrett from Hockey Night in Canada, and he played in the WHA, he played in the NHL, and he said he would, knowing what he knows now, he never in a million years would have went in net with those old masks because they literally sat right on your face. And it's actually the combination mask that the goalies are wearing now, where it's the fiberglass with the cage on it.
Right.
That was actually, it was Ken Dryden's brother, Dave Dryden, who was playing with the Edmonton Oilers. He was the first guy to create that style of mask. He basically took his old fiberglass mask and just literally cut a hole around it and bolted a cage to it. They refined it over the years, but in the 1978-79 season, when he played with Edmonton, he wore a mask like that, and Eddie Mio, the backup goalie, wore one as well.
And how long did it take to transfer over to other? I mean, it took a little while.
In the early 80s, in Canada, we basically outlawed fiberglass masks. So they went with the helmet and the cage. So that was predominantly a lot of the 80s. But then when you got to 1986, 87, then the combination mask was approved. They refined it enough. And actually, it's way, you see goalies now take a slap shot to the face, they barely flinch. But back in the day, that would hold the game up for 10 minutes and it'd be stitches and crazy.
I'm still thinking about back in the 80s. Was it Rod Langway for the Capitals? He was like one of the last guys with no helmet. Like he was one of the only guys who, there were guys who played with no helmets.
1979-80, they passed the rule that everybody had to wear a helmet. Anybody that was signed before that didn't have to wear one. So they were grandfathered in. So there was him, and there was Craig McTavish of Edmonton. He didn't wear a helmet either. Like that's absolute insanity. I would never play without a helmet.
We joke now about hockey players get a shot to the mouth, spit out the teeth, or get a cut, a skate on the face, 85 stitches, and they're back in the next. When can I go back in? Like they play with because we're here in New York, and I think Trouba played. He was missing a part of his ankle. That's how he played the end of the season. Yeah. We're like, what? You can't play with a piece of your ankle missing. So my girlfriend, her first year of season tickets with the Rangers was 94. She went to every game and every playoff game. So we go to 5 games a year. You got to come down. I mean, you got to listen.
Well, I remember I was like hardcore, like in the 1970s, like when they had Rod Gilbert and Vic Hadfield, Steve Vickers, they had John Davidson in net. I mean, the Rangers were, they were kind of like the hard luck team. They were so good. They had so many good players. And then what I loved the Rangers was like Phil Esposito was their coach and their GM. And Phil Esposito brought my boyhood idol out of retirement with Guy Lafleur. I came back and played 1 season with the Rangers with Marcel Dion. And that was insane. But I always have had an affinity for the Rangers. And now with Madison Square Garden being the last of the original 6, because I've been to the Forum, I've been to Maple Leaf Gardens, I've been to Joe Louis, and I was at the Olympia. I didn't get to Chicago, I didn't get to Boston, but Madison Square Garden, that's the Mecca now. That's the last one standing. And I gotta think at some point, I know they did the big renovation back in the late 60s, but at some point with all the stuff that happens in there, it's going to have to be replaced, or they're going to do something. I haven't heard anything.
No, nothing. Yeah. They have done renovations. A friend of ours, he has tickets up top. So there's nobody sitting behind you. They're fantastic seats. That's where his season tickets. We're second level, about center ice, and we're going actually a week from Monday. Our next game. Right. A week from Monday, we're going. So,
and the Rangers have that iconic jersey, right? They're like the Montreal Canadiens. They made that stupid change in the late 70s there for 2 seasons, and the people in New York lost their minds, and then they reverted back. That's another kind of cool story. So I don't know if you remember those jerseys when they went to the white arms and they had the New York Ranger logo on the crest instead of saying Rangers. So
I need to look that up now. Okay.
Yeah, they wore it only for 2 seasons, and the fans in New York just went postal. And it's when Phil Esposito was there. And John Ferguson was the GM, and he came up with this idea. We're going to market it. We're going to change the jerseys. We're going to kind of bring this into the, New York in the late 70s with Studio 54 and all that craziness. He wanted to kind of make it a little bit more modern. So he redesigns these jerseys. Fans lose their minds. They go back to the old jerseys in that 1979-80 season. And then John Ferguson ends up going to the Winnipeg Jets. So in 1980, when they were coming into the NHL. So he's their first GM. So what he does is if you take the New York Ranger jersey from 1978, take off the Ranger crest and put the Jets crest, it's the same jersey.
Really?
Yeah. So he basically took the jersey, took the crest off, put the Jets crest on it, and that's what the Jets wore in their first season.
Wow. I'm looking it up right now because you made me just, I'm like, I got to see what this jersey is.
It was 1977, 78, and 76, 77, 77, 78. It's when Esposito wore number 77 because Rod Gilbert wore 7, and that's how the double numbers thing started. And then John Davidson wore 00.
And I'll tell you, John Davidson was we didn't get hockey. I mean, I know Don Cherry, I know Hockey Night in Canada. But Davidson was a phenomenal hockey announcer. I mean, just
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
And now here in the
he's got probably one of the best stories. So when he got traded from the St. Louis Blues to the New York Rangers, and he was backing up Eddie Giacomin, and the New York Rangers, Emile Francis was trying to kind of rejig stuff and put Eddie Giacomin on waivers, thinking nobody in the world is going to pick up Eddie Giacomin. And he put him on waivers, and Detroit picks up Eddie Giacomin off of waivers. The very next game the Rangers were playing were Detroit in Madison Square Garden. And if you check, you can see the clips when Eddie Giacomin came out wearing a Detroit Red Wings jersey. The whole game, the whole time, they were just screaming Eddie, Eddie. And you see him at the game, like he's almost on the verge of bursting into tears. And John Davidson was on the plane. They were like, "Hey, where's Eddie?" And then the trainer was like, "He's gone." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "He's gone. Detroit picked him up. He's playing for Detroit now." And John Davidson sat down. He goes, "I am going to be the most hated Ranger player moving forward because I'm replacing Eddie Giacomin."
Right.
And it's too bad because Eddie just passed just a little while ago. But if you ever watch any interviews with him, he was an amazing goalie and amazing ambassador for the Rangers.
He was. I mean, Gilbert is still at the games. Like, he'll be there giving away stuff and everything. Is this the jersey? I don't know if you can see it. Is this the jersey we're talking about?
That's the one. You got it.
Oof. Ooh, that's hideous.
Yeah, they only wore it for 2 years, and the fan base lost their minds. And then in the 1979-80 season, so the year they went to the Stanley Cup against the Montreal Canadiens, they had reverted back. Their road jersey said New York, and their home jersey said Rangers. But they went back to the original color scheme and the piping on the arms and like what they wear now.
So I actually have the alternate jersey, which is all like a dark blue because I thought, but now I look back, I really want the original now. But my girlfriend's favorite, I call her, she doesn't like her name on the podcast, so she went to Michigan Wolverines, so we call her Michigan. Her favorite player was she calls him Honey. Oh my God, I'm blanking on it. How come I'm blanking? He played Graves. Graves was her favorite player.
Oh, Adam
she loved Graves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Favorite player. Player.
We used to joke with the 94 Rangers. It was Edmonton East because they had so many.
Well, right. And they
so
saved it, right? Right.
They had five, I think, 5 or 6 Rangers on that team: Messier and Graves and McTavish and Kevin Lowe. They had a bunch. They had a bunch. But you guys had Mike Richter, man. That guy stood on his head that year. He was awesome.
Oh. She's met everybody, and still, and now you think about it that it's 94, and we're going on we're over 30. I mean, it's crazy how they've hit like a dry spot, like a drought. Well, listen, Montreal hasn't won. I mean, I'm talking to preaching to the choir right here with you. 93. I mean, it's been forever. Well, you have been back to some Stanley Cup final. You have it back.
Yeah, we went back a couple the year of COVID. We lost 4 straight to Tampa Bay. But I mean, I count myself lucky. I've been able to see my Montreal Canadiens win 9 Stanley Cups, so I can't really complain. I mean, we had the 4 straight in the late 70s. We had 86, 93, and then I still remember being a young kid watching the 73-74 Stanley Cup or 72-73 against the Chicago Blackhawks. So I can't really complain. My teams are back on the upswing now. We've drafted really well. We got a good coach now. I think Marty St. Louis has been a fantastic, former Ranger. Fantastic. He's done a great job with these young kids. We got our captain is playing for Team Canada, Nick Suzuki. He scored a couple of goals in the tournament.
Yeah, he did. He scored the game winner, I think, the other day, right? I think he scored the game winner the other day.
So he's done really well. The cool thing about the NHL now, everybody's got a shot. You make it into the playoffs, your goalie gets hot, certain things line up. You never know. The days of the old dynasties where you're winning 3-4 cups in a row, I think those days are over. So it's anybody's game. You just got to get there.
Do you ever go to any? Do you try to go to a game a year with Montreal or not? You don't even do that now. Do you
I
go?
haven't in the last few years. I do have a friend that I can get some Leaf tickets, so I do go to some Leaf games, just more to watch the other team. I went actually. It was funny because last year I went to see the San Jose Sharks play, and I wore my California Golden Seals jersey to the
Oh,
game.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, because I mean, literally, the San Jose Sharks played 30 minutes from where the old Oakland Seals played. So
Okay.
I wore that, and then the last game I went to was against the Vegas Knights, and I wore my Frank Mahovlich Toronto Toros jersey to the game. So I
Now
had a
people
lot of
have to stop you. People stop
all
you,
the
right?
time.
People. Oh,
Well, and some of those jerseys, I've actually had people come up to me and say, "Hey, I want to buy this jersey right now." Sure.
right. Oh,
So
really? And you just sold? You just gave it to him
oh,
right there?
right off my back. When I find other WHA fans or USFL fans, I know how I feel when I have these things, and they're nostalgic. They bring back fantastic memories, and if I can pass a little bit of that along to other people, it's awesome.
You know what I think we should do? We should, and I know you should do, but we could get a whole USFL podcast. I could just find all the old USFL guys you loved, and we'd bring them on, and I would just be there, and you would just talk, and I'd just be like, Dan, let's talk to some USFL great
Yeah,
or WHA. The stories that, especially the WHA and the
yeah.
WFL, the stories they would have would be. And you
Uh,
also
it,
wanted to start your YouTube page is Obscure Sports League, dude. That's what you are. But it's
yeah.
a phenomenal title to have. You're like the fanatic.
Yeah, well, that's I was thinking about. So after I started to, chatting with you, my wife turns to, she's like, why don't you do something like this? I go, nobody knows this stuff more than you, and every time somebody asks you something, it turns into an hour conversation. So I thought, you know what the hell, I'll do it, because it's amazing how many people have reached out to me. Like if they know I know something about it, they'll ask me like, hey, I'm not sure about this or I'm not sure about that, and I used to work in the theater business, and we've done events like with some former CFL players, especially, and
Okay.
some of them had played in the USFL. And when they find out I know something about it, like it's a great conversation starter. And some of these guys, once you start, you don't have to do much. You just say a couple of things, and these guys will start talking, and they go for hours.
Listen, we that's another thing. So you ran a movie theater that became a national landmark, and you only showed classic movies there, like, and
Yeah.
Robert
So
Duvall just passed.
yeah. So I tell a couple of stories about him. Um, uh,
Hit me with a Robert
so
Duvall story because I loved
I,
him.
when I worked in the theater business, I did the Toronto International Film Festival, which is like
Okay,
right up there
yeah,
with Cannes, and
huge. It's
it's huge.
huge. It's huge.
And Robert Duvall was doing the movie. It was his directorial debut. With the movie was called The Apostle, and he
Okay,
was coming to Cannes. And my job was I would greet the talent when they arrived at the theater, get them into a green room, get them set, and then what they would do when they did a premiere, the director goes out, talks, answers a bunch of questions, then they screen the movie. And when you think about some of these people, so like I've met Clint Eastwood, I've met Robert Duvall, and some of these other actors. You think these are iconic guys, and when you are in this business, they'll give you a sheet, and it's their rider. They want Perrier water, and
right,
they want
right.
whatever, and then
Green
you're
jelly
told,
beans.
yeah, like they don't want to be talked to, they don't want to be disturbed. It is the whole thing. So you get these things, and these are done by publicists, and you read it, and you're like, okay, you follow it. So one of Robert Duvall's one was like, he prefers to be like kind of left alone before he has to go out, because believe it or not, although he's an actor, he's kind of shy when he has to address big crowds. And at the film festival, he's going to talk to like 500 people in a theater. So great, no problem. I get him in, put him in the room. So at the time, I don't know if it's still his wife, but he was married or was with, the woman he was with was an Argentinian ballroom dance champion.
Yes, met her at
And
25. He was
yeah,
66. He met her when she was
yeah.
25. Yeah.
So
Okay.
he shows up with her. So now Robert Duvall,
Gorgeous. Right.
jeans,
Right.
a shirt with a sports coat on, look fine. She walked in like she was coming to the Oscars. She was drop dead beautiful woman, like very, very
Okay.
nice. And bring him into the room and make some small talk with him, tell him, here's the schedule, here's what's happening and all that. And then we're just standing there and I'm at the door, leaving them alone. He's got a bunch of other people with him. And then we're about to go on. I was like, okay, 5 minutes, Mr. Ball. We're gonna head out. We're gonna go down the hall, go make a right into the theater. He's like, you don't want to hear the lines? And I'm like, lines? What are you talking about? He goes, well, when I do these things, everybody wants to hear the lines. They want to hear The Godfather and they want to hear Apocalypse Now. And I'm like, okay, sure. And if you closed your eyes, you would think you were watching the movie. So he's like, it's nothing personal, Sonny. It's only business from The Godfather. And then he says, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. It's the smell of victory. And he said it and he was right in character. It was really creepy, but so cool. And then
it was creepy, but cool.
I brought him out and he did his thing. And I'm like, did that just really happen? So yeah, the theater, you can check it out. It's called the Westdale Theater. It's in Hamilton, Ontario. In Hamilton, it was the very first movie theater. It originally opened in 1937, and it was the very first motion picture only theater in Hamilton. All the other movie theaters back in the day, they were all vaudeville houses. And then as live entertainment went by the wayside and the motion pictures came out, they'd stick a screen in the front of the stage and turn it into a movie theater. But this movie theater in the 30s, it would show the newsreels on Saturday, and then you'd go see the matinee on.
Right.
And it had laid dormant for about 5-6 years. And just before COVID, a not-for-profit group bought the property, and then I was brought on because I had worked in it for a couple of other bigger movie chains. I was brought in to kind of work with the restoration and then run the theater. So we brought old movies back, like The Godfather. We screened The Wizard of Oz, all the old classics, Casablanca, and we would show them in the theater because now you can watch them on the streaming services, but
it is something to be said about.
Yeah, no. And then what I would do is before the movies, I would do a talk about the making of the movie, some of the actors, some of the stuff like that happened in the movie, like the movie Some Like It Hot with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau and Meryl Streep or Marilyn Monroe.
No.
Why was that?
Was Walter Matthau in or Jack Lemmon? And no, it was
Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis. Yes.
Why was that movie in black and white? Because it was made in 1963 and there was color film back then. Why was it in black and white?
No idea.
Because the whole movie, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon are in drag. And if the movie was in color, the censors thought it would be too risque to men dresses.
Really?
So the alternative was they filmed it in black and white. And when they went to make the movie, Marilyn Monroe had a writer in her contract saying all the films had to be in Technicolor back in the day because she's Marilyn Monroe. She's drop dead gorgeous. Right. She wants to be in the best light. They had to go to her and say, listen, they're not going to make the movie if we make it in color. We need to make this movie in black and white. And that would obviously negative. But she saw the movie's a classic. She knew that. She knew it was going to be a great movie. And she agreed to do the movie in black and white in order for them to make the movie. That's why that movie's black and white. And all the other movies back in those days were in color. But they did it because the two male characters were in drag pretty much the whole movie.
And they had makeup on. So it would have popped with them with the makeup on too.
Right. So they thought it would be too sexualized or whatever.
Right.
So they made the movie. That's why that movie's in black and white.
Do you have a favorite? It's hard to say a favorite, but do you have a favorite movie? Is it one of your favorites? Do you have pops in your head?
So my favorite. So I was very close with my dad. My most favorite movie was Magnum Force, the Clint Eastwood, the Dirty Harry movie.
Really, Magnum Force. Was that the first? Was that the first? No, Was that was with
Tyne Daly.
Was that the one with the bad cops? Was that with the bad cops?
No, the Dirty Harry. That was the first one.
Okay.
So Magnum Force was the very first movie my dad took me to see at the theater.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was a restricted movie. I was 10 and he kind of snuck me in.
Okay.
And
Right.
so when I used to work when I was doing at TIFF, we used to have our name tag and sorry, it was not Magnet, it was the Enforcer. So my name
The
tag
Enforcer. Okay.
had the Enforcer on it. And when I was at TIFF, it was for the Clint Eastwood movie Unforgiven. And
Okay.
so Clint Eastwood was there and he sees my name tag. It says Dan and it said the Enforcer. So he makes a joke. He's like, "Oh, the Enforcer, like, are you the muscle around here?" I'm like, "No, it's our favorite movies." And I told him, sorry, like, when I was a kid, I got, the Enforcer. My dad took me to the film. It was the first movie I went and saw in the theater. So I always keep that as my favorite movie. About 3 weeks later, I have no idea how this happened. I'm at my office in the theater and I get a tube from Warner Brothers. And when I opened it up, it was the original lithograph
Movie
of the
poster.
Enforcer. Yeah.
Oh my God. So you got it
So
framed? Is it framed in the
I
house
got it framed. It's
downstairs?
in my basement as well. So it's like, I
Oh,
don't know how he did it. I don't know how the hell he found out where I was, but Warner Brothers opened it up. Boom. The original black and white lithograph of the Enforcer. Yeah. So
I,
some of these people
that's
you think,
amazing.
like some of these people that you think are like, they're uppity up superstars, I found were the nicest and the most easy to talk to. And then some of the people that were not as popular were usually the ones that were the most problems, the most
Well, that's what.
challenging.
So I did some acting. I made a film, didn't go anywhere. And one guy said, "If you're an asshole before, you're just a bigger asshole once you make it." That's what he said to me,
Yeah.
and it always stuck with me. It was always like this guy always was difficult, and now and you're like, but I could see Eastwood being that kind of guy. Just was like, I mean, he's been around forever. I mean, he's
No,
been.
he's like 95. Like the guy's
Oh,
just,
and he's still making movies.
yeah,
Still
he's
making
not smooth
movies.
stopping him. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
the
that is
crazy thing is he's old Hollywood, right? He makes them on budget, on time, right? Like
exactly on budget, on
any,
time.
uh,
Right.
any actor you talk to, they're like, it's one take. If you don't bring it, moving on, right? We're not wasting everybody's
We're
time.
moving on.
Yeah.
We're done here. Nothing
Yeah.
to see here. We're done here. That's amazing. Wow. Yeah. So I was running down all the CFL teams. So there's only 9 teams now, so it's an unbalanced schedule.
Yeah. It's always been 9 teams. So we were down as low as 7 at one time. Ottawa was gone and Montreal was gone for a while. And then Ottawa came back, Montreal came back. They are desperately. So back in 1985, here's a cool CFL story. 1985, they expanded. They give a team to Atlantic Canada. They were going to play out of Halifax, Ontario. They were going to be called the Atlantic Schooners. So Schooners based
Okay.
on the tall tip. And they were going to call themselves the Atlantic Schooners because they were going to draw from New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia. Those provinces are all pretty close together, and they can get they can all. So they were going to call themselves the Atlantic Schooners. They had John Heward was going to be their coach, and J.I. Albrecht was going to be the GM. They had uniforms, they had helmets, they had everything ready to go. They had drafted players. I don't think they signed anybody, but they were all ready to go for the 1985 season. And at the very last minute, they couldn't secure a lease agreement for a stadium, for any of the college stadiums
Really?
in Atlantic Canada. So they ended up not playing. So that would have got us to 10 teams, which would have been 5-on-5, and it would have been a balanced schedule. It would have been great. But every year for the past number of years, they have what's called the Atlantic Bowl, where CFL teams go to New Brunswick and Halifax and play a regular season game. And those games, if you watch the TV, they're always packed. The only thing that's holding back the East Coast is a proper stadium, because they need at least a 30,000 seat stadium. And
Okay.
university football in Canada, I mean, our stadiums maybe are 15, 18,000 seats.
Right.
But they would need a stadium. I don't think it would be hard to find an ownership group that would do it. It's just what everything holds back is the stadiums. And just like in the US, not too many ownership groups want to pay to have a stadium built. And our provincial governments are kind of not on board with financing stadiums for private use type of thing.
As opposed to the US where everybody pays for the stadiums and the owners just get richer. But so wait, do you have any Schooner stuff? Did you ever make a Schooner's helmet or anything like that?
So believe it or not, so every year at the Grey Cup, all the fan bases converge on a location wherever the Grey Cup is, and they have the fan day. So you can look them up on the internet. There is an Atlantic Schooners fan group, and their motto is the only undefeated team in the CFL. I
love that.
That's their tagline.
Oh my God.
But if they ever, I guarantee you the team will be called the Atlantic Schooners just because their fan base they're there. And I mean, they have t-shirts, they got hoodies, jackets, hats. They show up. If you came to Canada at Grey Cup and you saw the fan fest and you would swear to God there was an Atlantic Scooter team that was playing. Like
really?
That's how big they got the flags, the banners, everything.
How many Grey Cups have you been to? Or have you traveled for any of them or?
So, I've been to 2. So, and they were 2 that were held in Hamilton.
Okay. So you didn't travel so the fan fest must have been amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So when they did it in Hamilton, they did it at the big hotel in downtown Hamilton. It's nuts. So the one year, the Calgary Stampeders, when it was in Toronto, they actually ran a full-size horse with a guy on it through the lobby of the Royal York Hotel.
Because I've seen the horse at games, but you're saying, wow, that's hilarious. Full horse.
They do nutty stuff at the Grey Cup weekend.
Yeah, because he played. Did he play? Flutie did play for Calgary, if I'm correct. Correct.
He did. Yeah, he played for Calgary, the BC Lions, and the Toronto Argonauts.
BC Lions. Now BC plays in a dome, and Toronto plays in.
So Toronto used to be in a dome. They used to be at the Rogers Center, but when the Jays, the new ownership group for the Jays, they turned the dome into a baseball only. They've done a phenomenal job. The Rogers Center dome was the very first dome that could automatically open and close during a game. So they play outside most times, and then they have to close it if the weather's inclement. But the Argonauts used to play at Exhibition Stadium. They went to the Sky Dome, which was basically up the street, and now they're back at Exhibition. They play at a field called BMO Field. It's the Bank of Montreal field, and it's outside, and it's on real grass. So
real grass. Yeah, there's a lot of turf though. There seems like there's more turf in the CF.
Yeah,
I don't like turf.
Well, I don't either. The FIFA World Cup this year is going to be there's going to be games played in Toronto. So the stadium that they're going to be playing the soccer out of in Toronto is the field that the Argonauts play their home games at.
Well, here at MetLife is grass. I mean, a turf, and they're putting it for grass. And well, just keep it grass. Why can't we keep it grass as opposed to being turf? Well, and I think there's so many more injuries too.
Yeah. Well, FIFA has a rule that all their games have to be played on real grass. You can't play on turf.
Yes,
so if you remember back, there was the way they did it. I think it was '94 when they had the World Cup in the U.S. and the Pontiac Silverdome. They had to they put it all on grids and they pulled it outside because they kept it inside. There was humidity, so they pulled it outside. And then when they came to game time, they wheeled it all in, and then because it was turf underneath. But yeah, FIFA the games have to be played on grass. So wherever they're playing, they're going to be converting it to grass until the World Cup is done.
Do you watch any soccer? Are you a soccer fan at all?
The two sports, basketball and soccer, I've never really got into just because, hockey for us is kind of like religion, and
it is,
football, it just takes up with the CFL and NFL. That's pretty much the whole time. And,
So no Raptors. You never got into the Raptors.
No, actually, when I was at the Westdale Theater when they won the championship, we live streamed the game in the theater.
Oh,
that was kind of
fun. That's that's cool.
That was really fun. Yeah, so I got to see Kawhi Leonard there make that bucket at the end, and that was kind of cool.
And then he was gone, but it was one good year, and you had him, and then he was gone.
Yep.
Oh, so I have a couple trivia questions for you. I don't know if you're going to know that. Are you up on USFL trivia? Do you know? Would you know a couple of these? Do you know who? Okay. Do you know who had the most sacks in a single season in USFL history?
Reggie White.
Corker. His name, he played in the, I looked him up. He had 28 and a half in 18 games for the Michigan Panthers in 83. Wow. The year he was the defensive player, 28 and a half. Wow, and I tried, records are hard to find. I'll be honest with you. It really, who has the most rushing yards in USFL history?
Calvin Bryant?
No. This player has rushing and touchdowns. We talked about him today.
Herschel Walker.
Yes.
Yeah.
55, 62, and 54 touchdowns. How about quarterback? He has passing yards and touchdowns. Would you know who that is? Quarterback. We talked about him too.
Steve Young or Jim Kelly.
It is. Jim Kelly only played 2 years. He bet 9,000. Yeah. This guy, a quarterback on the team that won the first championship. And then he went to play for, he went to the NFL. Yes.
Bobby Aber. Yeah, Bobby Aber.
13,000. Yeah, he was awesome. 13,000 and change. Yeah.
He played in 2 championship games. He played in the first one and the last one because he was with the Oakland Invaders when they played Baltimore in the last one.
Right, and which is right behind you, the Oakland Invaders. Now, I didn't know this. This player has the most catches, yards, and touchdowns for a receiver. So I wanted to look him up. I didn't even know. I think I was confusing him with the guy who played on the Jaguars back in the. But that was back in the 2000s. Does Jim Smith ring a bell? Jim Smith? He had 234 catches, 3,685 yards, and 31 touchdowns. So I wanted to find him and I said, I got to get Jim Smith and get him. And him
the one thing that's really cool, there is a fan group. It's called Save the USFL. And there's a group out there right now that are digitizing all of the games.
Yes. I've seen that.
Wait for this. I actually contributed to their fund because that's one thing because there are some complete games that you can find on YouTube, but it would be phenomenal if you could kind of get to pick and choose games from each year. I've rewatched the championship games, but it would be really cool to watch like some teams that I like, the Boston Breakers or a team that, the Washington Federals or somebody.
And they became, so it was the Breakers, then the New Orleans Breakers, and they went out wet. Then who'd they become their last year?
The Portland Breakers. Yeah.
It's like they played Boston.
And they never changed their uniform. They never changed their name. They played all 3 seasons of the USFL in 3 different cities. But when in Boston, they were playing at the old Nickerson Field, which was
a dump.
Atrocious. And then and then they went to New Orleans. They had some success in New Orleans. They had Dupree was their running back.
Dupree from Marcus Dupree, who only played 1 year at college basically, and then went pro.
Yeah. He rushed for them, and then they went to Portland. Wow. I love their uniform. Their helmet is tough to make because that wraparound logo is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. It was a pain in the ass. Yeah. So wait, do you get credit then at the CFL Hall of Fame that's your collection that you added?
They put a little plaque that said helmets contributed with my name on it.
So that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, you got to get some props.
I always tell people I'm in the Hall of Fame.
You are in the Hall of Fame. You're in my Hall of Fame. Listen, this has been beyond anything I expected. I usually write out a ton of cards. I go, I think Dan's going to have enough to talk about. I was like, unbelievable. We got to, this has to be a regular thing with you. I know you have a lot of information in that head of yours that we can talk about.
Let me know. Let me know. And I actually have, there was a book that I actually ordered. Remember the old Hockey News when it was a newspaper?
Yes.
So they had this classified. So there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, but he made a book and he chronologically did all of the stats of every single game, every single year of the WHA. So that's kind of like my Bible. Like when somebody wants to know how many, who's the goalie in the 74 season for the Vancouver Blazers. Like go and look it up, right? And I can tell you right off the bat, way better than the internet. And it's a book.
Now, who had the best of the WHA teams? Who had the best uniforms in your opinion?
I really, really did like the Vancouver Blazers, the Philadelphia Vancouver Blazers. They were like a burnt orange with a dark orange and a white. Actually, when they were in Philadelphia, the very first year, Bernie Parent had left the Flyers, and he played net for them. And Derek Sanderson was their big signing. He only ended up playing 8 games before they cut him loose.
Oh man, let me tell you something. There's one here. It's a retro. This one is wow. Dan, this is fun. I wear this every day. Look at this one. Wait, hold on a second. Did not mean to, oh my God.
Yeah.
Did not mean to hit the sound effect. So my buddy is from Louisiana, and they had the Louisiana ice skaters. Okay. So a gator, and I wanted that jersey so bad. And they only lasted a year or two. And I was like, oh my God, that is a great jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. They only lasted, they were in Philadelphia, and then they went to, I think they only played 1 year in Philly. Then they went for a couple of years in Vancouver as the Vancouver Blazers. And then they moved to Calgary and were the Calgary Cowboys.
Oh, so then that jersey changed, the Calgary Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys, they went to red and white. So they had a white Stetson cowboy hat on the front of their jersey, and they had and it was red, and they had a white jersey.
You know what? I don't like it. I don't like it as much. I don't like it as much.
Yeah, that's pretty plain. But there's one thing about, like, even when you go back and you look at the old ABA, you look at the WHA, you look at the USFL, they were innovative with their logos, their uniforms, their color schemes, because you find like the NHL and the NFL, they were like boring. It was the same stuff. And then these leagues came along and really started pushing the envelope. And then everybody wrapped their head around, hey, guess what? I guess we can make money from merchandise. So let's make 13 alternate jerseys and make money. And I think they've kind of lost it. Like the Rangers, hats off to them. They have their alternate jerseys and everything, but they're very dedicated to their traditional uniform. The Red Wings, the Canadians, and the best jersey. I'm a Canadians fan, but the best jersey in the NHL is the red Chicago Blackhawks jersey. That's my favorite.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
So someone just did this was the Schooners. Is this the Schooners? Wait, hold on a sec. Is this the Schooners? This was their original, what it was going to look like?
No, it was a gold helmet, and it was a round circle, and it had, I don't know if, do you know Montreal, do you know Molson Export beer? It had a schooner on it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it had a schooner, and then it said schooner. It said Atlantic Schooners.
Okay, so this isn't it. This is a gray helmet. That's not it, right?
No, but that A is a mock-up of what so they've put out different versions. Like every year or two, the fan base will create new uniforms for them. And so, Madden football in Canada, There was a guy that made a hack of a Madden football and made CFL team and made an Atlantic Schooners team on it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I see all the merch here. It's crazy.
There's tons of it. And that team never played a down of football ever. They were announced. They were going to be on the schedule. They had, like I said, they had announced coach, GM, all this stuff, and they folded before they even started. But they've resonated with the fan base since 1985.
Now, is this it? Could it have a black in it or no?
Nope. It was, I don't have a picture of it right at the moment because I made 2 helmets and sold them. They had a gold. It was kind of like the Michigan Panthers gold, and it had
I know what you're talking about.
A white and a blue logo on the side with a blue stripe on the helmet.
So that's the thing. We will talk. You know what? The great thing is, you and I have your number now. So now I'm going to become text buddies with you, and then I'm just going to start. We're going to just start inundating ourselves and all that stuff.
Yeah, no problem.
And you may be think of something about I was thinking about a movie. I've done it. No, I was thinking about something, and I got caught up in the jerseys and everything. No, this is awesome. You had gems today. You had. I'd love you to take pictures of the enforcer. Yeah. Listen, I should just come out to see you, and we could do a show at your house and just have everything and just do a show there. Because I bet if we did it in your I guess it's man cave-ish down there would be a little. You have a lot of stuff down there.
Yeah, back in the day, I had a website like about 10 years ago when I was actually selling all the, and that was my website was mancaveheaven.com. That's gone now, but I had a logo for it and everything. I might bring it back. I'm not sure yet. My professional life is still pretty busy now.
Right. So you now you work at you sell cars? Is that what you're doing now?
I work at a local dealership here in the region called Cambridge Toyota. So I sell cars for them. Yeah.
That's yeah. I can see you. And also you sent me a headshot. I go, why a headshot? And you went on local TV to talk about the movie theater.
Yeah. So before I got into the theater business, I used to work for Blockbuster Video way back in the day.
Oh wow. Yes.
And yeah, so I worked for them for about 10 years. So in Hamilton, the regular local morning shows, I would go on every Tuesday morning because Tuesdays is when videos would release their new releases. So I would go on and I had a 5-10 minute segment on this week's new releases with Dan.
Really? Because it's funny. You said the first movie you saw was The Enforcer. The movie that sticks out with my father, he took us to see The Jerk with Steve Martin. I was like 10. I still remember, and I was like, I didn't know what was going on. And I watch it now. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea what was going on. And I was like, so that's the stuff I think about. And so I think it's great that the Clint Eastwood story is the best. Like, oh no, I'm at the movie. He's like, he must just clicked in his head. He goes, I'm going to send this guy something. I mean, just that's so cool.
Yeah, so cool. It was awesome. Right? And there was no note. There was no nothing. The tube came with my name on it and to the theater I was working at. And I just thought it was because I used to get those all the time, right? That's how the studios send you the marquee posters for the theater.
Right.
So, but it came with my name on it as opposed to just the theater name.
Right.
So they came and they threw it on my desk, and I almost chucked it. I was like, who the hell's putting the you know where the movie posters go? Go put them away. Like, find out which one it is and let's get it on the list to get it put up. And they're like, yeah, but it's got your name on it. Okay. I open it up and I unrolled it. And I'm like, and it's that hard cardstock. It's not like the regular like poster picture, right? Like I pulled it out and I'm like, oh my God. And there was no note, nothing, zero, just the poster.
So I was a huge Ali fan, and Ali, I think his name was, I'm blanking on his name. The guy wrote a definitive book on Ali, and my father took a picture with like on the side with Ali and Ali shaking his hand, and it was the one man I always like. Did you ever meet Guy Lafleur? Did you ever meet?
I did. I have a Quebec Nordiques jersey signed because he played the last two seasons of his career. He came back. He played 1 year, 88, 89 with the Rangers. And then went for 2 seasons with the Quebec Nordiques. And that's was kind of a coming home for him because he played his junior hockey with the Quebec Ramparts, which played in the old Colisée, which was where the Nordiques played. So he was like a god in Quebec City. Like they loved him there. Because they actually tried to get him to sign with the Quebec Nordiques of the WHA when Montreal drafted him. But he decided to play with the Canadians instead.
Were you a little starstruck when you met him? Were you a little like
Yeah, he's probably the only guy that I kind of like geeked out when I kind of met him. Like Clint Eastwood, Robert Duvall, like that was kind of a work atmosphere type of thing. So, I was the old Toronto memorabilia show every year. He was one of the signing guys. So I got my jersey and, kind of went up to him and had a couple of words with him. And he was awesome. I mean, he was my favorite player growing up. My very first Montreal Canadian jersey was a number 10 Guy Lafleur jersey, and I still have it.
Really?
Yep.
I gotta see it.
I wish it still fit me, but it doesn't.
I just lost your picture. I hear you, but we both lost each other's pictures.
Yeah. You're back now. I see you flicked out for a second.
I don't know. All right. How about this? Let's make a plan to do another show soon.
Sure, man. You let me know.
I mean, it flew by. We did almost 2 hours, and you got to get that page up. You got to have a page. You got to get on. You should put something on Twitter and Instagram because you can just post every day something from your. I mean, I can't. I was going to give you some. So tell me your page again on YouTube.
What's
your handle?
The handle is. Hang on a second. I got it right here. I just did it the other day after I was talking with you. So it's at Dan Fournier CP4MM.
but it's not called. Isn't it called the?
It's called Obscure Sports League Fanatic.
Yes, obscure. Yes. All right. So now I have your number. Let's do a show again. I really appreciate your time. And Canada won today, so congrats. And
Thanks.
USA plays in about.
What was the final score? What was the final score?
And 3-2, and I think they scored in the last like 40 seconds on a controversial. I think they thought they might have been offside, so they kept going back and forth. But I was like, I was too enamored with your story, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Yeah, no problems. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks
Looking forward to it. Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Take it easy. Bye bye.